We've all heard that writing things down by hand as opposed to typing endless notes on a keyboard helps with learning and retention. But what if I told you that it's not just about writing things down by hand, but in fact makes a difference if you use a pen versus a stylus? According to recent research by the University of Tokyo, Japan, selecting the right tool to take notes could make all the difference. In this video, I'm going to review the reMarkable 2 tablet and talk about the 3 things you need to do when taking notes to remember more. How's it going, folks? My name's Marcus, and if you're new here, on this channel I talk about tech, EDC, and anything that can help me live a happier, balanced, more productive life. But what about this study from Japan? Student participants were asked to listen to a student talk about their schedule, including dates and tasks, and take notes. Some were given a pen and paper, others a tablet and stylus, and the final group a large phone to type in. After an hour, while hooked up to an MRI, they were asked all sorts of questions to help recall the schedule, and those with a pen and paper remembered more accurately. In fact, for this group, areas of the brains associated with language navigation and visualization lit up more than the other 2 groups, indicating something deeper was going on. The Fast Company summarized the findings well by saying, handwriting likely facilitates learning and memorization because of numerous one-of-a-kind physical cues it provides. The shapes of your letters, the tactile feel of the paper and pen, the location of your words on a page, and details like folded corners, ink color, and other marks on the page. Your brain absorbs all of these pieces of information, which can later serve as triggers so that you more precisely pull the information from your memory. So basically, the 3 things you need to do to increase your likelihood of remembering something important is 1. Write it with a paper and pen. 2. Add unique visual cues to the paper. And 3. Take your notes in books. So I went in search of something that could have the feel of a notebook, the tactile scratch of a pen on paper, but the forgivingness of cloud, and reMarkable 2 was the obvious choice for me. So I've been an avid note taker on iPad since about 2018 when Apple brought out the iPad Pro, its first iPad Pro lineup, and where they really made a big difference in terms of there were kind of 3 key areas that made it more viable in terms of a note-taking device. The first were the styluses. They got an awful lot better. Gen 1 styluses from like 2013, 2014 were squishy on the end. They weren't very accurate. It was really hard to write with them. But when Apple brought out the Gen 1 Apple Pencil, it really was a game changer in terms of being more accurate with your writing. The second is that the screen technology got better. They were no longer as laminated, there wasn't as much depth to the screen, so it didn't feel like your writing was kind of abstracted away from the space where you were actually making the marks. And the third thing about it was they got the latency right. So the one thing about using handwriting is, and when you're writing on a screen, is you're very perceptible for delays and lags. Even milliseconds of lag in terms of when you draw a line to when that line appears can seriously mess you up when you are writing on a screen. And Apple started to get that right in about 2018. And now I think it's actually a really great way to be able to write on a device. The reason that it was so good for me to be able to use iPads back then was I didn't want to bring a notebook with me from room to room because I was writing some confidential things, and I was worried that if I lost my notebook or if I left it somewhere, anybody could read those things, and some of those things were personal or private to me or confidential in terms of business. So I really fell in love with the iPad in 2018 because I realized that I could take it with me from meeting to meeting. I didn't have to worry about leaving a notebook behind. My notes were saved and secure in my note-taking app of choice on my iPad, and I was able to do much more, like run PowerPoint presentations. I always had this kind of mini computer with me above and beyond what my phone could offer. But something changed for me during the pandemic. I found myself working from home again. I work in the tech industry where I work at a computer for an awful lot of the day taking calls, but I was able to rediscover the joy of writing on a really nice pad and a nice piece of paper with a fancy pen, and it's something that I really love doing. The tactile feel of having a nice pen, either a fountain pen or one of my favorite microball pens, writing on nice paper is incredibly satisfying and something that I really enjoy doing. I do something in the mornings called Morning Pages from The Artist's Way, where I write 3 pages of whatever's in my head for that morning. Sometimes it's a single topic over 3 pages, other times it's 20 topics over 3 pages, but it helps me clear my mind and organize my thoughts, and I find it very cathartic to be able to do that with a physical pen and paper in front of me. And I don't have that worry about losing my pad or leaving it behind me, and all of my thoughts or confidential information being lost because I'm no longer going into the office as much as I do. So why look for an alternative? Why did I come to the reMarkable 2? Well, there is something that I'm missing, and that is when I'm finished with these notebooks and pads and I have all my notes within them, they're up on my shelf, and they're not really readily accessible to me. I don't have them categorized in a way or journaled, and they're very hard to be able to search through or discover. And I'm really missing some of the things that I used to have from my iPad in terms of being able to save things, in terms of these are the meetings I have with specific people, these are meetings on specific topics, all of that natural organization you get with an iPad. However, I was looking for something that felt a little closer to writing on paper than I get from my paper-like screen protector with my iPad. And so I went for the reMarkable 2. I read all the reviews online, and I came to this reMarkable 2, and it is not cheap. I've had it for a week now, and I want to give you a quick review of some of the pros and cons that I found with the reMarkable 2 in the week that I've had of owning it, and maybe how it might help you in future. First of all, this feels like a really premium product. There's good weight to it, and it's expensive. It should feel good. It's actually more expensive than an iPad. So you've got to really want to be into taking these notes on this device, because realistically, it doesn't do an awful lot more. It is basically a digital e-ink notebook. It comes with a stylus, or at least mine did. The package I bought, it came with a stylus and a cover to be able to protect it. But your bare bones reMarkable 2 device is basically a tablet with an e-ink reader on it. So if you've used a Kindle before, it's like a Kindle screen that you can write on. One of the really interesting things about the stylus is it comes with cardboard nibs, and that is one of the things that actually makes writing feel like true writing. As you scratch it across the screen of this, it really does feel kind of like a pencil on paper. Not so much a pen, but a pencil on paper, and it is incredibly tactile. So talking about some of the specifics, it has some cool stuff, like you can store your notes in different places, set up folders, set up different structures for it, similar to with the iPad. Another pro is you can use convert. You can convert your handwritten notes to text, which makes them more searchable in future. And I found this feature to be reasonably accurate. I'm pretty good at taking handwritten notes. My handwriting is reasonably legible to people, and I found that the AI algorithm that converts the notes is actually pretty good. The pro of that is it makes all of this text that you create searchable, which is something that I can't do with my notebook, and that is one of the reasons I was looking for something like this. The second thing is it connects with all these different cloud services like Google Drive, OneDrive, wherever you want to keep your notes, so you can actually see them on all your devices. Supposing you're out and about, you don't have your reMarkable, you can check for that note on your phone. Again, something I didn't have with my paper notebooks, and again, something that I was looking for. And finally, the last thing is I get a lot of PDFs to review with the job that I do. I get a lot of decks and a lot of PDFs, and I like to be able to review those and mark those up by hand. I can't do that with my notebook. I often have to do that with my iPad, and I can do that again with this device. There's highlighting, there's different style pens, and I found it really good for marking up those PDFs. Albeit it's all just black and white or various colors of grey. When you use a highlighter, you can't really do a pink, green or blue type color highlighter. It all appears grey on this e-ink screen. And the final pro of this, and this is something in terms of customer support and usability, the unboxing experience is really premium, but more importantly, reMarkable 2 encourages you to try this device, and you get a 100-day no questions asked return policy. They're really good about it. They want you to be able to use the cover, so that if you need to send a cover back and it's a little bit scratched and used, that's okay. They want you to really try out the stylus pens, and with these cardboard tips, you're going to wear them down, and they don't need you to send back all of them. They come with about 10 different tips, and they don't expect those to be returned as well. So they're very confident in this product that you'll like it, and that if you don't, you can return it within 100 days. Which brings me to some of the cons of this device. So it is a joy to take handwritten notes on this. This is what it's designed to do, and it is really enjoyable. But I did notice a perceivable lag. In fact, I think there's more of a lag using reMarkable 2 than there is on the iPad. This is something the iPad does better than reMarkable 2, and I really was surprised by how disappointed I was from the very moment I turned this on and started writing. I would expect more from a device that costs this much money and says it's a replacement for pen and paper. For me, it really wasn't. I'm a bit disappointed by that. iPads can do a lot of things, but if you put a paper-like screen in an iPad, it's almost as close to this. This is a better writing experience. It's closer to paper, but it's not that much better than an iPad. And in fact, with the latency being faster, lower latency on an iPad, and having higher latency on this, so you notice when you mark with a pen that line takes a little time to fill in, I'm really not willing to pay the price, and I will be returning this device and just see how good reMarkable 2 are about taking it back to a device after me using it for a week or so to make sure that I like it. So where does this leave me in terms of remembering more and taking better notes? I think I'm going to stick with my iPad. I like being able to mark up PDFs in color, marking up PowerPoint presentations, and keeping all of my one-to-one notes organized in a way that I can file them away. But I also love using pen and paper. And I'm going to go back to using my pen and paper on my favorite pad of choice. Link to the description if you're looking for a fantastic pad. This is called a Tomio River pad. It is a 96 page A5 notebook made in Japan, and it's incredibly lightweight paper. If you love writing with a fountain pen, you like really thin paper but it doesn't bleed through to the next side, I can't recommend this enough. But that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to stick with my iPad. I'm going to write a lot of handwritten notes, and unfortunately the reMarkable 2 is going back. Good luck.